Let's go straight to CNN international correspondent Ben Wedeman. He is in southern Lebanon. Ben, the scale of this evacuation, this call for evacuation by the IDF, it's estimated to be more than 1 million people. What's the plausibility of this actually happening?
It's going to be very difficult. First of all, given the fact that the sheer number of people, perhaps 1.1 million people, in a situation where there's very little fuel, the number of people, where are they going to go? Where are they going to be housed? The UN and other international organizations in Gaza are saying it's simply not possible given the number of people and the circumstances. There's an active war. People are afraid to just move in the streets. So moving 1.1 million people from northern Gaza to the southern part is something that's hard to imagine being done on practical terms. Now, I've been in Gaza before. For instance, in 2014, the Israelis ordered the evacuation of civilians from northern communities, ones near the Israeli border. For the most part, people were able to do that because you could get out by walking, you could get out by riding on a donkey cart, perhaps if you could get a car ride out. But that was relatively small numbers compared to Gaza City. Gaza City is huge. Where are you going to put all these people when you move them south, when none of the relief supplies, tents, food, water, medicine have been allowed into the Gaza Strip? So it's very difficult to imagine how this could possibly be done. And Hamas is calling on people to stay in their homes, to stay put. So this is going to be very difficult. And certainly if people do not or cannot evacuate those areas the Israelis are calling them to leave, and this ground offensive goes ahead, probability is it will be a bloodbath.
Ben Wedeman joining us in southern Lebanon. Ben, thank you very much. And joining us now to get more of these questions answered, IDF spokesman Lieutenant Colonel Peter Lerner. Colonel, thank you for your time again this morning, as always. I do want to ask you for confirmation on what Hamas is claiming, that 13 Israeli prisoners taken hostage during the weekend's attack. They are claiming they have been killed in Gaza by Israeli bombings. Has the IDF confirmed those deaths?
Obviously, I can't confirm those, and we have to be cautious with everything Hamas is saying, and their propaganda efforts are extensive. This morning, we are continuing our activities against the Hamas terrorist organization and their infrastructure throughout the Gaza Strip. Specifically, we are targeting special operations capabilities. We've taken out their drone capabilities. They had attack drones that were poised and prepared to be launched at Israel, but we've taken some of those out, and we're continuing our effort to make sure Hamas can never, ever threaten Israel again. They cannot be permitted to do so.
Do not have confirmation of what Hamas is claiming there. Do you have any update, Colonel, on the condition of all of the hostages, any of them that are being held?
No, to my knowledge, they've not released any information except for disinformation. Mm-hmm. And I would be, and we're looking into it very cautiously. The situation is as such. We believe that Hamas are responsibility for the well-being of all of the hostages that they've taken, and they need to return them immediately. They need to release them to Israel, and they will bear the consequences for their actions. The situation on the ground, obviously, is a complicated one, and we're operating in caution with regard to the hostage situation. And of course, it is influencing our operational game plan.
How is it influencing it? Is it causing the IDF not to take certain actions at this moment that it would otherwise take?
I obviously won't elaborate on operational considerations, but definitely it is part of the planning process, and we do need to take that into consideration. Okay. Our priority is to return them home as soon as possible.
The order recommendation from Israel for about 1.1 million people, according to the UN, to move out of northern Gaza. There have been some reports of a time frame put on that. Is there a time frame that the IDF has put on that?
So the order is to evacuate immediately, and I would highly recommend that people adhere to that instruction, because the military is determined to take out Hamas's capabilities. You know, that they operate as from a stronghold within Gaza and Gaza City, and they can no longer be permitted to utilize that area to govern us. So I would say, yes, the idea is in order to minimize and mitigate civilian casualties, and this is what you've been asking us up over the last couple of days, what about humanitarian corridor? This is part of the humanitarian effort so that people will not be influenced more than they have to be in this conflict. Hamas, unfortunately, is calling, on the other hand, no, people do not evacuate, stay and sacrifice yourself, because that exemplifies exactly what we've been saying. Hamas has no regard for human life, Israeli or Palestinian. They will sacrifice everybody, as they are proving time and time again.
The question is there a safe window for all of those people, 1 million plus people, to evacuate to the south? The United Nations says it is, quote, impossible for such a movement to take place without devastating humanitarian consequences as these airstrikes continue.
So here's what we do. When we saw a threat on the border with Gaza, we evacuated the people from the border with Gaza. What is Hamas doing? They're not doing anything. They're sacrificing. They're telling them, no, stay put. The IDF isn't coming. The IDF is operating. We are operating extensively. When they place their offensive drones, their strike drones, their suicide drones on the roofs of houses, they are jeopardizing everybody in that house. They don't care. So we're telling people, evacuate this area because we are operating. We plan on broadening the scope of our operations in order to achieve our goal.
Colonel, I'm going to move on, but what I'm trying to understand is there a window of safety, right? The UN has said 24 hours, for example. Is there a window of safety when this evacuation of a million people can happen?
That the evacuation takes place immediately. The window of the 24 hours that we're talking about is the highly recommendation, but it could go on beyond that.
Okay.
But I would say the instruction is get up and get out of the north of Gaza and Gaza City and move to the south.
And just to be clear, though, move to the south, but there is still no crossing out of Gaza for them.
We're directing them exactly where we expect them not to be, where people, in order to safeguard their own lives, should move from. Not to go into Egypt or anything like that, but they should not be in the area which we designated and have told them specifically. Now, this is like a forewarning of where we're operating, forewarning of where is going to be more extensive combat, where there are going to be more extensive strikes. You know, this is the whole idea of trying to safeguard people's lives. The instruction to leave is to save people's lives. So they should leave from the north of Gaza, from the Gaza city. They should go to the south of the city, of the Gaza Wadi, and they should set up there. If they stay, they are jeopardizing themselves.
Okay.
This is what I'm trying to say.
I
know that there are concerns, considerations. There are problems, of course. I would say Hamas need to deal with all of those problems of how to shift people from the north to the south, like we did. We took people from their houses in the south of Israel and we moved them elsewhere. And Hamas have the responsibility, rather than failing the people of Gaza, they should help the people of Gaza.
And then, Colonel, I think the question becomes, for how long can they remain in the south? Will an order like Israel has given in the north then come to them in the south? If there is no crossing that opens.
Our operation is focused towards Hamas, not to the people of Gaza, because the people of Gaza are not our enemy. The Hamas terrorist organization that has butchered over 1,200 people in Israel cannot be permitted to govern the Gaza Strip and use it as a staging ground against Israel. So when we recommend to the people of Gaza, go to the south, you should listen, go to the south. Do not stay in Gaza City, do not stay in the north. And yes, everybody should listen to that recommendation.